Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Gary Lawrence. I'm the Microsoft BDM here at Dicadata in the hardware team. Every IT professional has security at the top of mind, and today we're talking about Windows security, and I want to start with a simple truth. Windows 11 is the most secure Windows OS ever. I'm once again joined by two fantastic guests from Microsoft who bring deep expertise and insights on this topic, and rather than introducing them myself, I'll invite each of them to introduce themselves briefly and share a bit about their role. Andy, over to you.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, everyone. My name's Andy Malakooti. I'm the go-to-market lead for our device partner sales team here at Microsoft ANZ. Great to be here.
Thank you. And Mitch, over to you.
Thanks, Gary. Hi, my name's Mitch Smith. I'm the Windows Commercial Solutions Specialist for Microsoft Asia. I split my time with the device partner ecosystem, so the device manufacturers, a lot of the resellers, but I'm also customer facing. So I spend a lot of time with large enterprise organizations around Asia. Success for me is about new device sales. So that's basically what I'm paid on. But my key kind of goal is to help everybody extract the most value out of Windows.
Thank you. And over the next 45 minutes, we'll talk about how Windows 11 is continuously innovating and evolving to offer built-in protection far beyond any previous generation. But first question to you, Andy. Every time we talk about digital transformation, security seems to dominate the conversation. Is that the same for you? Is that what you're hearing from your customers?
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. Security is definitely the number one priority for pretty much every customer. We often talk about new features within Windows, the benefits of on-device AI, but ultimately customers keep bringing it back to security because security threats are unfortunately rising and they're getting more complex as well. At Microsoft, we analyze something in the vicinity of about 100 trillion security signals, detect 38 million identity risks, and we block about 4.5 million net new malware files every single day. And we are in a unique position where we take that information, that data, and we release a document every year, which we call the Microsoft Digital Defense Report. Now, this report tells us a couple of things. Firstly, end user credentials and identity continue to be a major threat for attackers. Secondly, attackers are constantly trying to use different methods, using different methods like social engineering and phishing attacks. And lastly, there's new emerging threats that are coming on the back of AI. Now, AI makes us all very productive. It's amazing. But unfortunately, it also makes attackers more productive as well. So a customer's security strategy is probably more important now than it's ever been. And there's also other threats emerging, things like quantum computing. Now, that's not necessarily something we'll talk about today, but it's something that we're working on for the future.
And when you look at numbers like those 600 million identity attacks a day, it's clear that the threat landscape is exploding. So with so much happening, how are organizations actually making sense of this? Mitch, what are they using to guide their security strategy?
So the mature customers, the ones that sort of aren't overwhelmed by all the noise, and there is a lot of noise, are responding with structure. They're anchoring themselves in frameworks. When I speak to global organizations, they tend to lean on NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. That's a US-based institute that publishes very widely used frameworks and guidance around things like cybersecurity, AI security, and a whole bunch of other things. The Essential 8, I hear a lot, especially in Australia and New Zealand, and that began as an Australian government framework, but again, it's now sort of being more broadly adopted in the private sector, both in Australia and New Zealand, and that's it's a pretty straightforward, sort of measurable security baseline. It's quite good. And then we're seeing zero trust become the operating model that organisations across the region and honestly across the world are now moving towards. And I guess what's interesting is that these frameworks, and models, they're not competing. They overlap in a lot of ways, but they all point to the same fundamentals around, identity, patching, access control, device health, data protection. So, if I'm talking to customers, it's very rare that I do in this sense, but anyone who's thinking about starting or wanting to know, how that they should base themselves in principles, well, grounding yourself in these principles sort of behind these frameworks and models like NIST and Essential 8 and Zero Trust are definitely a crucial first step in building an effective security strategy. And then when you look at some of the other data from our research, you'll see kind of exactly why those fundamentals, the core elements of good cyber hygiene are so important. So good cyber hygiene can prevent the vast majority of attacks, but our data found that 80% of organisations still have at least one open attack path to a critical asset. 61% of those attack paths run straight through sensitive user accounts, the high value identities that hold meaningful access, like executives, IT staff, developers, not necessarily full admins, but these accounts are powerful enough that if an attacker gets hold of one, they can move quickly toward a critical asset. And it's also really interesting that on average, only about 1% of an organisation's assets are truly critical, which means attackers don't need to compromise everything. They just need a single path to one of those assets. And that's why the basics matter, multi-factor authentication, zero trust principles, staying up to date, modern anti-malware, strong data protection and strong data governance. These aren't nice to haves. They close those attack paths that you're seeing on the slide.
And because we're here to talk about Windows, let's drill into update hygiene a little more. Mitch, what are many customers, they struggle with updates. Why is this still a challenge in 2026?
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, the short answer is many organisations are living with the legacy of their SOE, the standard operating environment. For years and years, the SOE was the backbone of IT. Customers would build a gold image, they'd lock it down, they'd test it to within an inch of its life, and then only deploy updates when they were absolutely sure nothing would break. And that definitely made sense in a world where change was expensive and certainly risk tolerance was low. But that model slows everything down. Every patch becomes like a mini project. Every update has to be validated against sort of a frozen image, tightly controlled. And by the time that testing is complete, attackers have already exploited the vulnerabilities and are already in the customer's environment. I like to ask customers that are in this boat, I like to ask them, how long does it take you to approve a critical patch? And the answer is usually weeks, sometimes it's months. And look, I completely get it. The legacy SOE, it didn't just shape IT, it shaped the partner ecosystem. Imaging, packaging, regression testing, this was all predictable, billable work. But like I said, it slows everything down. Modern management changes all of that. It removes the heavy lifting and it opens up far more valuable opportunities, configuration governance, update orchestration, zero trust enablement, endpoint analytics, security posture management. Partners who lean into that shift aren't losing revenue, they're strengthening their status as a trusted advisor to the customer while also moving to arguably higher margin recurring services that customers actually need in today's cloud-first world.
So with all that in mind, those frameworks, those fundamentals, and the shift into modern management, how does Windows actually participate in this? Andy, what's Windows' role helping these organisations?
Look, Gary, everything we've been talking about so far really only works if the platform supports it. And that's where Windows really drives and participates. If you want to do zero trust well, if you want to close those attack paths, you want to move beyond sort of legacy SOEs, you need a platform that's built for it. And that's what Windows is today. It's the platform for work and the platform for security. Now, security is the number one priority for IT. We've heard that time and time again. But it's no surprise that operational efficiencies are becoming a top priority for everyone else in today's businesses. We're all feeling the pressure, right? Industries are being reshaped by AI. The pace of business is faster than it's ever been. Commercial customers are feeling the tension between introducing new innovation while balancing this with security risks. 40% of data security professionals are reporting an increase in incidents linked to AI use, while 80% of employees and leaders are saying they don't have the time to get through their work and they're planning to fill the gap with AI. Now, this is a real pressure point for all of our customers. And when AI adoption happens faster than governance can keep up, and you get sort of shadow AI, the use of unmanaged AI tools, that's driving many of those incidents. Now, it's not just about keeping up. According to our Microsoft 2025 Work Trend Index, 82% of business leaders believe this is a pivotal moment to rethink core strategies. and operations overall. Now, that's a really huge thing that we're dealing with. And that's where Windows, and we can help solve for this gap. Windows is the platform for work. And our goal is to help bring secure, business-ready AI to every organization on the planet so people can work smarter and allow IT to still maintain that control.
Yeah. So these survey results, they're really impressive. But Andy, can you talk about how Windows 11 is so much more secure?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I mean, I think we touched on it earlier. Windows 11 is the most secure operating system we've ever built. And firstly, hardware protections like TPM 2.0, firmware protections like Secure Boot, they're all mandatory for Windows 11, which is fantastic. But beyond hardware, Windows 11 is simply more secure by default. Every release shuts down old attack paths, tightens the defaults, hardens the spots attackers usually go for. And more of that security stack is simply on by default, especially in Windows 11 Enterprise, where the platform does more of the heavy lifting and closes common attack surfaces automatically. Under the hood, we're making pretty significant architectural shifts, moving risky components out of the kernel like legacy drivers and parts of the graphics stack, removing old code, weak crypto. We're also hardening credentials and getting ready for post-quantum crypto as well. So we're essentially doing two things. We're expanding what the platform can do, and we're reducing how much IT needs to configure. The result is a system that's more secure and more secure by default. All of this means your devices are protected automatically without extra effort from IT. Now, when you take that secure by default foundation into the real world, that's when you really start to see the impacts immediately. So earlier we talked about the qualitative signals, but now if you look at the quantitative side, the hard numbers, customers running Windows 11 Pro are seeing a 62% drop in security incidents and a 3 times reduction in firmware attacks compared to older devices. That's huge, and that's based on older devices versus modern Windows 11 devices. But security isn't the only preventing attacks. It's also about resilience, making sure that when something does happen, the platform helps you recover quickly and limit the blast radius overall.
Yeah, exactly. So customers on Windows 11 are seeing fewer incidents, but resilience still matters. Mitch, how is Windows evolving to support that?
So resilience has become a core expectation from our customers. Strong prevention matters, but so does the ability to bounce back if something slips through. That's why Windows has to take on more of the work, keeping things secure and running smoothly even as the environments become more complex. We introduced the Windows Resiliency Initiative at Ignite 2024. It was after a major event that happened in the middle of the year. I won't say the name of the internet security vendor, but there was a huge issue. And then we expanded the Windows Resiliency Initiative in Ignite 2025, just in November, just gone. It's a really broad program, but the goal is simple. It's to help our customers prevent incidents, definitely manage them confidently when they happen, and then recover with minimal disruption. If you do want to go deeper into the full initiative, yes, the link is on the screen, but for today we're going to stay focused on the prevention side because the work we're doing here directly supports the new sort of Windows 11 security features that we're about to cover.
Okay. Mitch, let's dive into some of the new security features on Windows 11.
Sure. So start here, I guess, is probably a good place to start as any. So, most malware, it relies on untrusted or unsigned code being allowed to run. So controlling which apps and drivers can execute is one of the most effective ways for an organisation to stay secure. Windows 11 now makes it easier than ever to block risky or unknown software, which means attackers have far fewer opportunities to get through. And with these new controls, you can be confident that only trusted apps and drivers are running on your devices. Let me show you what that looks like in practice. So here's a device running an app that wasn't deployed by IT and isn't trusted. It looks just like Microsoft To Do, but it's actually ransomware. So without app control, it runs, and as you'll see in a second, let me just click, it encrypts the device. Bang, bad. App control for business isn't new. It's built on WDAC, the same allow listing engine Windows has relied on for years. What is new is that the cloud managed model finally makes allow listing simple and scalable in real environments. I've already deployed the policy to this device, and now I'll show you what happens when an untrusted app tries to run with app control for business enabled. Windows checks the app before it runs, sees that it's untrusted, and there you go, blocks it instantly. The ransomware never gets a chance to execute. Another aspect of prevention for us to focus on and definitely address was probably the most overlooked attack surface in enterprise environments, and that's printing. For years, traditional print drivers have run with really high-level system privileges, which unfortunately made them a very common target for attackers. Again, going back in history a little bit, not too far, vulnerabilities like Print Nightmare showed us just how risky that kind of setup can be. Windows protected print mode is our answer. It's a secure by default printing approach that skips third-party drivers altogether. It uses a modern standard-based security stack instead. At the heart of it is IPP, the Internet Printing Protocol, and a massive ecosystem of MOPRIA certified printers. There's, I think, about 120 million of them and counting. These devices work with lower privileges and don't need custom drivers, which means fewer headaches and fewer risks.
Now, earlier you called out there are over 600 million identity attacks every day, and nearly all of them target passwords. So, Mitch, how is Windows 11 innovating in that area?
Passwords. So, there's a really great phrase out there. The bad guys, they don't hack in, they sign in. Windows 11 helps prevent unsafe sign-ins before they even happen. So most identity attacks don't rely on technical exploits, they rely on deception. They dupe the user into handing over their login. Attackers are incredibly good at creating sites and apps that look legitimate. Even the most security-aware people can be tricked into entering their credentials. And that's exactly what enhanced phishing protection in Microsoft Defender Smart Screen is designed to break. So if a user starts entering their credentials into a malicious app or compromised website, Windows recognises it and steps in with a clear warning. So instead of relying on the user to spot a perfectly crafted fake login page, Windows 11 provides a built-in safety net that stops the attack before the password's even typed. This feature is actually shipped out of the box. So these phishing safeguards are built directly into the Windows 11 platform. But then, if the attackers successfully do steal a password, they often then gain full access into the user's local files, because historically, once you're signed in, everything is open to you. Many users keep sensitive files in default locations like desktop, documents, and pictures. These folders are high-value targets for attackers who sign in using compromised credentials. Personal data encryption, or PDE, for known folders adds a new layer of protection by keeping those folders encrypted until the real user proves that they are physically present with Windows Hello. So even if an attacker signs in with a correct password or malware runs under the user's identity, those files in those folders stay encrypted and inaccessible. Even IT admins, so an IT admin with full permissions, can't decrypt them without the user's Windows Hello gesture. But even with strong protections in place, as long as passwords exist, they remain a target. So Windows 11 pushes further by strengthening Windows Hello for Business, our built-in multi-factor authentication with enhanced sign-in security, or ESS. ESS gives biometrics a protected end-to-end path. The sensor connects directly with a secure VBS enclave or a VBS environment, keeping the OS and drivers completely out of the way. And what that does is it removes an entire class of biometric pipeline attacks. Right. For users, hello and passkeys means fast, simple, passwordless sign-in. For IT, ESS basically raises assurance without changing any workflows. So everything continues to work exactly the same, just with stronger protection behind it. So together with PDE that I just covered and BitLocker, ESS gives you a hardware-backed foundation for identity protection and a clear path beyond passwords.
Great. So another highly exploited area is around overprivileged users, so users with access to all applications. How is Microsoft addressing this in Windows 11, Mitch?
Yeah, so some users need admin rights to stay productive, definitely, but persistent elevation is a security nightmare. It opens the door for malware, misconfigurations, and in some industries, compliance risk. Administrator protection is Microsoft's zero trust approach to local admin accounts. So even when a user signs in with administrative credentials, Windows treats them like standard users, so least privilege access, just like what I said in zero trust. So Windows treats them like a standard user by default, so suppresses their privileges until elevation is explicitly requested and verified again through Windows Hello for Business. So here's the key distinction. So elevation is task-bound, not session-wide. So Windows issues a temporary isolated admin token for that one specific action. So let's say I'm updating I'm updating a monitor driver or some sort of thing that I need to do that I would normally just use my administrative credentials for. Windows will issue that token. I'll do that particular action, and then Windows will destroy that token immediately afterwards. So there's no lingering access, there's no lateral movement, there's no token theft. So for IT, that's a win-win. Users can stay productive, but IT stays in control without sort of adding additional help desk overhead.
Now this maybe falls more into device management, but keeping devices up to date, what we were talking about earlier, it's a critical element to preventing security incidents. Is that correct, Andy? Are you seeing that too?
Absolutely. Look, we talked about it earlier. The longer it takes a customer to patch security vulnerabilities, the more time this actually gives attackers to exploit known vulnerabilities. Unfortunately, the average is about 102 days. But making updates faster and easier in Windows, it's absolutely critical. And this is where Windows Hot Patch comes in. So Hot Patch is designed to help keep devices secure by applying critical updates in the background. Now, like all of us, I'm sure everyone has delayed an update on their PC because it's interfering with their natural flow of work.
100%.
Now, traditionally, basically because of that, security patches have meant restarts, downtime, frustrated users, etc. Hot Patch flips that model, delivering 2 out of every 3 critical security updates without needing a reboot of the device. So it keeps the endpoint, the PC, secure, and the user remains productive and continues in their flow of work. This approach obviously minimises those disruptions so employees can stay productive, whilst also IT reduces the effort required to maintain the security. So this is a huge, huge advantage for both IT, security, and the user. Now bear in mind, Hot Patch is only available for M365 Business Premium or higher, which means you get this capability as part of a stronger unified security stack. Business Premium brings identity, device protection, and Intune together, so Hot Patch becomes an automated part of staying current.
Great. So Microsoft keeps saying as well, Windows is the canvas for AI and agents. But you also said that AI introduces a whole new set of security questions for businesses. Andy, have you seen that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we all love AI. We're adopting it into how we operate, how we work, into our organization's operations. But Windows treats AI as part of the security model, not something that's bolted on. We're giving IT practical integrated controls to manage AI workflows securely and flexibly. And we're continuing to invest in security, manageability, and innovation so that customers can deploy AI and agents at scale without having to compromise.
And on that, I guess to give organisations that level of control, we've introduced Windows AI policies now within Intune. So Windows gives IT policy level control over AI features themselves. So things like recall, click to do, the settings agent, improve Windows search, and all of those, they can be disabled, enabled, they can be scoped through the Intune settings catalog. This means organisations decide how AI runs on a device, what data it can access, and when it's allowed to operate. So we've even added additional controls around recall, so including Purview integration to help keep companies' data secure. Another big security question is around agent manageability. So we're seeing, agents, there's so much data talking about how agents are going to be in the millions and billions in the next sort of few months. It's incredible how much people are using agents now. And agents can take action on behalf of a user. So they have to operate inside clear enterprise boundaries. Windows and Intune gives IT control over how agents can connect, what workspaces they can use, and full visibility into the actions they take. That means agents can be powerful without ever becoming unpredictable. And this is what those guardrails look like in practice. AI components in Windows start from a secure posture, meaning they're disabled by default, and users must give explicit consent before an agent can access their data or take action on their behalf. Intune then gives IT dedicated controls for agent connectors. IT decides which connectors are available, what they can access, and whether an agent can use them automatically or must ask every single time.
And look, in addition to that, control and visibility are top priorities, especially for organisations that are in heavily regulated industries. We've heard this loud and clear from customers like Citibank, and that's why we're committed to building in the controls customers need. They determine how agents operate in their environment, they retain full oversight, and they ensure that they meet their compliance obligations as well. And as we continue to innovate, we're going to keep working with customers like Citibank and other highly regulated customers to make sure that those needs are consistently and appropriately met. Now, all of this brings us to the bigger picture. Windows is not just an operating system anymore, it's the enterprise canvas for AI. Because identity, policy, audit, controls are all built into the platform, IT doesn't have to reinvent its security model to support AI. It extends naturally from what Windows already provides IT. And this means your customers can bring AI and agents into their real workflows with confidence, without creating shadow automation or unmanaged tools.
Yeah, I can see from the slide that you're referencing Copilot PCs. They're the devices that enable on-device or hybrid AI. So this is a security webinar. So Andy, can you talk to me about Copilot PCs from a security perspective specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, Copilot PCs are the fastest, most intelligent and most secure PCs we've ever built. Now, we'd probably need a whole webinar just to drill down on Copilot PCs. But from a security standpoint, it all starts with the hardware. And this is the secured core hardware baseline for Copilot PCs. It starts from a trusted foundation, Pluton on chip, secure boot, enhanced sign-in security, and much, much more. And this is all on by default on Copilot PCs. Everything we've talked about today, secure AI, agent governance, identity protection, this all sits on top of this. And within that baseline, there's one really important shift that's happening in modern hardware. TPM 2.0, I'm sure many are familiar with. It's been a big part of Windows security for some years now. Copilot PCs build on that by putting Pluton inside the processor itself. Now let me show you how Pluton builds on TPM, what stays the same and what gets stronger. At a high level, TPM 2.0 and Pluton are designed to do the same thing, the same job. They both provide secure hardware foundation for Windows. The difference is how they're integrated. TPM sits alongside the CPU, which has served us well for years, but it still leaves a small vulnerability, a small gap that attackers can target. Pluton removes that gap by being built directly on the processor itself. That gives us stronger protection against physical attacks, more reliable firmware updates directly through Windows Update, and a more secure place to store keys and credentials as well. Now, ultimately, all of these amazing security features, they're fantastic, but we need to provide an ROI for customers. Now, a recent Forrester study that we did with customers who have already deployed Copilot PCs found that they experienced ROI by improving efficiencies and reducing security incidents. We talked about Copilot PCs being the most secure Windows PCs ever. We've shown that they can block over 70% of ways that a PC or data can be targeted. And as a result, organizations are experiencing security incidents by a reduction of about 15%. The same study showed that up to 5 hours was saved per employee per week due to benefits like faster content discovery, better workflows. And this improves security and efficiency, along with the rapid provisioning, helps to reduce help desk tickets between 10 to 50%. This is especially impressive because all of these benefits are in addition to the existing benefits that customers are experiencing when they've deployed Windows 11.
Thank you. Yes, organisations with Windows 11 are already seeing 62% fewer incidents and have seen 50% faster workflows. And Copilot PCs aren't just about performance today, they're also about security. So continue to refresh your devices that are ready for so that they are ready for the AI